Thank you for all of you taking the time and effort to complete that last project where we're tracing out our logos. Hopefully the feedback that I gave worked. Hopefully you learned a couple new things and or at least just shook off some of the cobwebs and are ready to get into our next project. So the reason we are working on logos is because our next project is going to be called Personal Logo Design. Okay, so what's going to happen today, I want you to please get out your sketchbook, get out a sketchbook, get out a piece of paper, something to take notes on. Because this project that we're going to do will require you to draw things and send me these drawings. You can send them by taking a picture on your cell phone. You can scan it into your computer. Whatever your tech savviness allows you to do, that's how we're going to be doing our updates. Okay. Today, what's going to happen is I'm going to go through a PowerPoint that I have. There'll also be some YouTube videos. There'll be links to the YouTube videos on the YouTube page, so you can watch those videos along with this PowerPoint, and then we will get ourselves going onto our next project. Okay, this is a really long project. It's going to take maybe the rest of the year. We'll see how it goes, but it's long because it's going to be broken up into multiple parts. So the first part will be sketching out ideas, presenting them to me. I can communicate with you, and we'll see kind of how the direction of your design will go, and then we'll get into the computer aspects of it from there. Okay, so please enjoy, follow along, and here we go. All right, so for our personal logo design project, first off, we got to talk about what is a logo. A logo is a symbol or other small design adopted by an organization to identify its products, uniform, vehicles, or etc. Basically, an image that is used to brand a company. Something more than just simply text, but something that is graphic, is an icon or an image that can be easily recognizable. It's a fantastic video here called The Art of Logo Design, presented by PBS. I'm not going to play it for you here, but please click on the link below to take time to watch the video before progressing on to the next slide. One more video for you. This one hits close to home. It talks a little bit about Nike, but basically goes into what makes a truly great logo. And the biggest thing about this is it breaks logos into 4 different families, which we are going to talk about moving ahead. So talking about our logos and what are recognizable, the first one that we talk about is a word mark logo. And a word mark is kind of self-explanatory. It's basically a logo that includes mainly text. Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is actually the most recognizable brand in the world, mainly because of how many companies it owns. But when sociologists went and did research all over the world, they found that there are indigenous tribes in Australia and Africa and in unmarked nations that know what Coca-Cola is, mainly because of the garbage that washes up on their beaches that have Coca-Cola symbols on them. It's kind of unfortunate, but it's branding. This is what we consider a word mark because it is driven by the text itself. It is readable. Now, the interesting thing about word mark logos is you have to make sure that they're written in a language where they're wanting to be read. So, Coca-Cola is recognizable all over the world, but it might not be understandable all over the world. Visually recognizable, literally and linguistically not necessarily understandable. Okay. The next type of logo that we're going to talk about are pictorial logos. And pictorial logos are really what a lot of companies are moving towards. One of the most recognizable pictorial logos in the world is Apple. The reason why this is extremely popular nowadays, and you can kind of guess why, there is no text, there is no language, there is nothing constraining it. All it is a recognizable image. An apple is something that we can look at this and say, wow, that's an apple. Now, to be very literal, this does not look like an apple. It's a flat object with a little shaped thing that's not connected to it, right? But because we know what an apple looks like, we know what the silhouette or the outline of an apple is, we associate this with an apple, we associate with the company Macintosh, Apple Macintosh, and then it becomes a successful logo. The next one we're going to talk about is an abstract iconography logo, okay? And the key to this is the word abstract, okay? This last pictorial one, it's a recognizable image. It's something that we can look at and say, oh, that is an apple. An abstract iconography logo is something like the Nike swoosh. The Nike swoosh is nothing. It looks kind of like a check mark, but it's not a check mark. They call it the swoosh. That's the name that's been adopted to it over the years. But when it was actually created, it was supposed to be a wing that was flipped upside down. Okay, but it's still considered abstract because it's not necessarily recognizable as anything specific. Okay, now these are really powerful because they end up bringing their own dimension to them. An apple, you will see, is associated as Macintosh, but this Nike swoosh isn't associated with anything else but Nike. Anything else but the Nike swoosh and athletics because of the branding that's gone over throughout the years. And watching that last video that talks about Nike, it explains that through this process. The final one that's also talked about in the video is the logo system, which is everything tied together. Okay, so this one we can see is a word mark, but it's also a pictorial or maybe even an abstract iconography piece. Okay, the logo system here, Nike. Okay, here's the Nike is the Nike text is the word mark. The swoosh itself is the abstract iconography. When you tie them both together, you can adjust these into the logo system that's referenced in the video that you just watched. Okay, super famous, super recognizable. Now, one of the reasons why Nike is so recognizable is the simplicity of their abstract, iconic logo. That swoosh can be seen everywhere. It can be small, it can be big, it can go on a shoe, it can go on a jersey, it can go on a t-shirt, it can go on a billboard, it can go on the side of a jet. It can go everywhere, and no matter what size it is, you recognize it as the Nike swoosh. A little fun story, when I was at the University of Oregon and I was playing football there, when you would hurt your ankle, say I rolled my ankle in practice and I wanted to get my ankle taped, sometimes we wanted to do what's called a spat, which is where you tape over the shoe. So you're like taping the shoe to your foot. And I said, hey, can you spat my ankle? They said, no, we can't. Well, why can't we spat our ankle? Because we can't cover the Nike swooshes. Well, Oregon is a Nike school because of its connection with Bill Bowerman, the track coach at Oregon, who founded Nike, along with Phil Knight, is an Oregon graduate and track athlete and all this stuff. So Nike had a deal with Oregon that you weren't allowed to cover their swooshes on your uniform. Well, look at the examples here. We have a picture of a football player, a quarterback on the left-hand side, and there is a Nike swoosh on the football he's throwing. There's a yellow Nike swoosh on his jersey. There's a green Nike swoosh on his pants. He has yellow Nike swooshes on his socks. He has Nike swooshes on his shoes. Look at the football player on the right. He's got the same swoosh on his jersey, but he also has one on his arm sleeve. He has swooshes on his gloves. He has swooshes on his pants. He has swooshes on the other armbands that you can't see on the other side. So there's swooshes everywhere because every time this football team is visually represented in pictures or magazines or billboards or whatever, they want to have their logo on it. They want to have their brand on it. They want everybody in the world to know this is a Nike school, and when they are successful, Nike takes a lot of the accolades for that. It's what we call branding, spreading your brand. But we're not really going to get into that yet. We've got a couple more examples for me to show you. Puma. This is another one. It has their specific word mark, and then it has their pictorial logo next to it, which is the jumping puma. Interesting thing about Puma is they made their own typeface. So they didn't find a generic one. They made their own typeface, something that was only theirs, that when you see this text, you will think Puma. If you see the word pepper written in this typeface, you're going to think Puma first because it's their individual typeface. Now you take a company like Crate and Barrel. Crate and Barrel did not take their own typeface. They took a very recognizable typeface called Helvetica. It's a variation of Helvetica, actually. But they took a sans serif Helvetica typeface. We've talked about those before. And what they did is they just squeezed them together. They took away the space between the crate and the and symbol, took away the space between the and the barrel symbol, and they made it all one. This is way before hashtags, way before any of that stuff. But it was new and fresh when it came out. They also took the kerning down. Kerning is something new that we're going to talk about, but kerning is really just the spacing in between each letter. So they took that kerning down a ton, and that makes it new and fresh. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about how you can make some adjustments to currently made typefaces, or how you can take typefaces and put your own spin on it. Understand, in this project that you're going to design, I'm not necessarily looking for you to make your own typeface. That's a far more advanced project, something for an advanced graphic arts class. I'm looking for us to be able to take current typefaces and adjust them to fit our needs. Now, there's a video we're going to watch in a little bit where they do make their own typeface to a certain extent. So here we go. Here's a fun little design. Look how they adjusted this on their own. They took the K and the N, and they just stretched the K up a little bit. They stretched the K down a little bit. They joined them together, stretched the N up, stretched the N down, and now this is their own personal typeface. Okay, obviously added some flares around it and all that stuff, but that is how they made this their own piece. Sonic Temple, very nice, simple, bold typeface. The Sonic and the Temple. How did they adjust the C to make it their own iconic C? All they did was they just cut a little piece off of the bottom of it. Okay, they cut it off to make it look more individualized. And then notice what they did with the entertainment. Again, coming back to the word kerning. They went Sonic Temple. They wanted entertainment to be small underneath it, but they wanted it to fit along the sides of the text itself. Well, they didn't want to make it big enough where you could see that, because then it would almost be the same size as Sonic Temple. So what they did was they made it small, and they took the spacing up in between each individual letter to widen it out. So now it can stay small, but it'll still fit the width of the Sonic Temple, and it makes this nice negative space shape around the outside of the logo itself. Notice too, what they did here is they have the image in white on brown, and they have the image in brown on white. We will be doing the same thing. We'll just be using black and white instead. The reason this is important is because when you create a logo, it's extremely important to know what it looks like on a dark surface and what it looks like on a white surface. Because when your logo is created and it's sent out to your customer or sent out to the company that you're working for, they're going to put that logo on everything. And they're not going to run it by you first. So if the logo looks great, white on black, and they want to go put the logo dark blue on a pink and it doesn't look good, that's going to come back to being your fault. They might not even care, but you're going to look at it and say, oh my gosh, they shouldn't have done that. And you got to make sure it works well. So we will talk about that in a little bit later. So the Sonic Temple, they decided to move it around a little bit. Why not move it over to the side? It has this kind of pagoda look, yet it still has this Sonic rings approach. Using the same typeface, looking for different variations. Here's a new one called Floodlight. Floodlight Records. Notice the records, they did the same setup where they increased the kerning in between the letters of records. Also, they took an image of an actual floodlight and made it negative space and made it be the ring for one of the O's to kind of work that pictorial aspect into it. Again, this is a combination of word mark and pictorial. Some other variations of floodlights. Understand that when you are doing this for a career, when you're doing this as a job and you're presenting to a client, you're probably going to come with 5, 6, 7 different logos because they're going to want to have a variation to choose from. Rarely does a graphic designer say, all right, here's your final logo, and someone says, oh, cool. They're going to want to have some input. They're going to want to have some possibility to change it. Now, with that being said, understand some of you very controlling people like myself might put out 5 of them and say, these 4 are horrible. This is the one to go with, and the client ends up loving the one that you like the least. That's just the way it goes. You're getting paid to make something for them, not something for yourself. Okay? Siloquence. Love this one. Love the little logo, the icon off to the right-hand side. Would this be considered an abstract iconography logo or a pictorial logo? If you said abstract, you are correct. It would be an abstract off to the side. And look at how they split up this word. They took the SILIQ and they made it bolder. Maybe just put a little stroke around the outside of it. And then they have the UENT and made it thinner. Also, look at that Q. It's really important with how they set this thing up. If you were to have this flip the other way around, the empty space on the right-hand side, it would look more like a curved G. So it was really important that they had the empty space on the backside, but they wanted their Q to be theirs, and they also probably wanted it to look a little bit like a power symbol. Okay, so all those things worked out really well in this design. Now, this is what we are not looking for. Okay, The reason this doesn't work is because this is just a picture, maybe a clip art that is set onto a file with some type underneath it. This will take you 5 minutes to do on a computer. This is not what I'm looking for. If you are going to have text on your logo, you need to have something done to the text that makes it yours. That makes it your text, not something you just grabbed off your computer and typed on. Okay? So make sure that this is not what we're looking for. If this comes with what you're looking for, your review will not be positive, and we'll have to go back and fix it. Okay? Now, this is a fantastic video. It's by a company called lynda.com, which is an online tutorial resource. I used it back in 2005 when I graduated from college. But it's a fantastic source. And this is about a graphic designer, a freelance graphic designer named Aaron Draplin, who's actually from Portland, which is really cool. And he talks about his design process. So it's a nice short little video. He goes through basically what we're going to go through next. So I'm going to let him take over right now. He'll talk about his process, and then I'll add on to that with the next slides. So go ahead and click on the video below and check this one out. All right, hope you like that. So now we're going to get into some requirements of our own, okay? First thing to write down in your notebook, that is a requirement. You hopefully have been taking some notes up until this point. First thing to write down is what are you going to make, okay? So the project that we're working on is personal logo design. You're going to design a logo for a company, but what is that company going to be? That's up to you. What are you going to market? What are you going to be pushing? That's up to you. First thing you need to do is figure out what you're going to be pushing. Now, this example that I did for you, I'm going to be pushing myself. What do I mean by that? Pushing myself as a graphic designer. So I'm going to write down a whole bunch of stuff. I'm just going to start just throwing out words, images, sketches, icons, whatever, onto a piece of paper. Once I get all that stuff kind of laid out, then I'm going to go into really organizing my thoughts and my ideas into actual sketches, okay? So right here what we have are some random ideas, okay? How am I going to represent myself as a graphic designer? Let's start off with some words. I want it to be strong, sleek, simple. What are some things that represent me? Music, art, sports, my faith, light bulbs, guitar picks. I don't know. I'm just throwing words out. They might not mean anything, but it's just me kind of trying to figure out where I'm going to go with it. And then I started sketching out some stuff. I kind of like working with negative space. So an easy way to do negative space was just I drew an O, an S, and an O, and I erased a line through the middle of them. OSO, by the way, was my nickname in high school. It's kind of funny. More people in my high school actually knew me by the name Oso than did by my actual name, which is kind of funny. So it's always just kind of stuck. So I'm going to make a thing called Oso Design. Okay, so how can I work Oso in? Oso down here with a hill and a tree. I don't know why I did it, but I threw it together. I did this little image over here. Oso Design underneath it. Not so much. What about this, like a negative space? Well, no, it looks kind of like a TV logo. And what about if I do 3 little circles? No, that's kind of like a Christmas ornament. Can I use this negative space of a guitar? No, not really. What about like a light bulb? No, that was horrible. But understand that I'm not erasing things. I'm just crossing them out, or I'm kind of leaving them off to the side. Make sure that you're not erasing your projects as you work on them, because I want to see your process. You want to see your process. You want to see the bad and the good and understand why they are good and understand why they are bad. Okay? Same thing as was shown in that video that you just watched. When you're working on the computer and you're going to change something, don't change the actual image. Copy it over and then make a change. Copy it again, then make a change. Copy it again, then make a change. So you can see what your entire string is. You can see where you've come from. Because if you go push it too far and you don't like it and you got to go back, you can go back to one that you liked before. So your requirement, what you're going to have to do once you've decided your company name, once you figured out what you're going to be marketing, are you going to be a record label? Are you going to be a mom and pop shop? Are you going to be a pastry store? Are you going to be a coffee shop? Are you going to be a graphic designer? Whatever you're going to be promoting as a company, once you figure that out, you have to give me at least 20 sketches. Once you send me your image, your file of 20 sketches, then I will look over it and I will give you a response to tell you what I like, and then we will decide on 5 possibilities for your project. Now, the 5 that I selected for myself were this one right here. this one right here that had this kind of angled piece. I kind of liked this OSO that I played with, this typeface that I made, so I circled that one and this one. Now, this is kind of a variation of this one down here, which I didn't like. It looked kind of like a motorcycle or something weird. I kind of like the negative space thing here, but it might be hard to read. This is kind of a better, more easy readable version of this, as is this one. So the next step, after you've done your 20 sketches, after you have sent them to me, and we have figured out what 5 you're going to work on, step 2 is you are going to vector each one of these 5 designs. I will have a little tutorial for you. Don't worry about it, but that will be our step 2. Okay? Now, just for the purposes of trying to get through this fast, I only vectored one of them, and I vectored this one right here. So this is what that looked like. Now, look what I did. I made my custom OSO typeface, and then I decided to make this little icon around the outside of it. I wanted to make it look sleek and sharp, but I wanted it to mirror this O right here, which is really the foundational DNA piece for my wordmark typeface. Okay. Now to make this, all I did was I took this O and I filled it. I expanded it so it was this big. Then I expanded again and I expanded again. I drug the right side all the way off to the right, and then I made a big circle to cut off this little shape right here. Then I found a typeface online. Okay, there's a couple different resources you can use. One is DA Font, kind of like dafont.com. We've used it in graphic design one before, but you can use that to find some typefaces that you can download and use. Don't worry about copyright infringement or anything like that, because you're not going to be selling your products. If you were putting those typefaces on a shirt and then making $5,000 off it, then you would have to pay them royalties for it. But because you're just using it for a project, it's no big deal. So I found this typeface. I really liked it, and it's very similar to the typeface that I made. But as you see, this S looks very 5-like to me, and I like my S a lot better. So I decided it'd be fine to use for the design. And now I'm going to go to the next steps. So step 1, to review 20 sketches. We're going to decide on 5 that you're going to work with. Step 2, vector out your 5 different logos. And when you vector them out, they're going to be black on white. Now understand too, guys, you have to focus on your positive and negative space. Think about that when you're doing your sketches. Think about that when you're laying it out here. Understand, these are shapes. These 3 pieces right here are different shapes. They're not outlined. When I sketched them as shapes. They aren't just solid pencil lines. Okay? These are shapes. Now what happens when I laid it out, I didn't like that it was all dark filled with black, so I made it in a black stroke instead. But these are empty shapes, as these are filled shapes. Okay? Same thing down here. Think about the positive, negative space. Don't try to just outline everything, which is what a lot of my students end up doing. Okay? Once I have my 5 logos down, I'm going to take those 5 files. I will turn them into Mr. Reynoso, turn them into me, and then we will talk about which one of those 5 is the one you should take off to become your actual company logo that you're going to work with. Okay? The next step, it's a really, really quick one. All you do is you take your logo and you're going to put it white on black, and you're going to put it black on white so I can see what both of them look like. Remember, like I said before, your logo black and white may look really good, but on white and black it might not. If I take this logo and make it really small, it might bleed into itself a little bit, meaning the whites look like they're really close together because white is so overpowering when it's on black. So I need to take all that stuff into account. I think it looks all right, so I'm going to keep going to the next part. Step 4, you'll start working in a color scheme. Okay, I've always liked this kind of really bold blue, like a royal blue. So I'm going to try that. I'm just going to play with it a little bit. I'm going to throw it in here. That kind of works. What if I had to do that? Ooh, I kind of like that a lot. What if I take this design and make that blue? No, I don't like that. It's too much. I think it's too much with the OSO and too much with the design together. Kind of like the black separating it like this. Ooh, what if I did this though? Now I've kind of changed my word mark, right? I've adjusted my design to make this come all the way through, but now it looks kind of like a racing stripe, which I kind of like. The only problem is now my logo, my word mark has totally changed. So I now have to see if it works in all black. Yep, still works. Does it work white on black? Yep, still works. Now I'm going to start playing with it. Okay, maybe I can put a blue accent with my logo being white. See if that works. Is it still readable? Yes. Does it still get across what I want to be put across? Yes. And then from there, I'm just going to play with it. I might take this design and try to use that now as my abstract iconography logo. Okay, kind of my Nike swoosh, if you would. Okay, flip it around, see if I can make anything out of it. I can kind of make an S out of it. Is that something I could use? Is that something I should mess with? Maybe what if I switch it up and I do it like this? Okay, what if I take this and I really separate it? Okay, so it's really up to how you want to play with it and set it all up. So, with that being said, hopefully you didn't get an overload in your brain. That's what we'll be working on today. Okay, the essential question is, can I use my knowledge of graphic design to create a logo that will represent myself or a company? Okay, remember the steps. Step 1, sketch out at least 20 logos, different styles, different meanings, whatever, but same company you're representing. 20 different logos. Send those logos to me. I will give you feedback. You will most likely have to sketch out some more, but that'll be the start to it. Okay, once we settle on 5 different logos that you're going to be able to work on, then step 2 is taking all 5 of those logos, vector them in Illustrator or on Gravit, and you will have them be black on white, and then we will decide from there what your strongest logo is. Step 3 is to take that logo, make it black on white, make it white on black, send that file to me. Step 4 is going to be to add colors to it along with color Pantones, little boxes underneath, and I'll send out a tutorial for that one. And then there'll be one final step that we won't get to right now because I don't want to overload you too much. We'll add that later. Okay, what I want to do for right now, watch the 3 videos in this presentation that are tagged below, start your sketches, get those sketches sent to me, and then we'll go from there. Okay, hopefully that's all right. Hopefully you're excited to go through this project, and let's make some cool stuff. All right, miss you guys. Hope you're doing well. Roll Tide.